Lunch break had just begun, and the factory floor turned into a stampede toward the cafeteria. Shoes tapped against the tiled floor, laughter filled the air, and everyone scrambled for a spot in the ever-popular lunch line. The star of the show? The steaming trays of food freshly prepared by Mr. Abdul Ramirez, the head cook. And more importantly, the father of Lena Ramirez, the only girl in a crew full of men. "Hey, Mr. Ramirez," Ryan Cole, a grinning young worker, lifted his plastic tray high. "Is it true that future sons-in-law get an extra slice of pork adobo?" Laughter erupted across the line. Lena, standing right behind him, rolled her eyes and snapped, "Ryan, cut it out. I don't care if there are no men left on Earth. I still wouldn't look at you twice." Ryan shrugged, faking innocence. "Ouch, Lena, that hurts. I haven't even started wooing you yet, and you're already rejecting me?" She shoved past him with a scowl, but their co-workers wouldn't let it slide. "You two are like cats and dogs. I swear you'll end up married," Randy chimed in from across the table. "No way!" Lena spun around, cheeks flushed with irritation, and maybe just a touch of something else. "Even if we were the last two humans alive, I'd still pass on him." More laughter followed. Lena crossed her arms, frustrated. She knew they were only teasing, but something about Ryan's jokes always made her heart skip a beat. Everyone saw her as one of the guys, the tough girl who could punch like a boxer and eat like a trucker. But deep down, Lena was still a woman, with a heart she tried desperately to protect. Maybe that's why Ryan's teasing hit a little too close. Because if she let her guard down, she might just fall for him. After her shift ended, Lena walked her bike out of the factory gates, longing to get home and rest. But as she approached the parking rack, she froze. Her bike chain had snapped clean off. "You've got to be kidding me," she muttered. "Who the hell messed with my bike?" Frustrated, she kicked the front wheel. It didn't help. "Hey, take it easy on the bike," came a familiar voice behind her. She turned around and saw Ryan leaning casually on his matte black motorcycle, that annoying smirk on his face. "Hop on, I'll take you home. You look like you're about to cry." "I am not crying," she snapped, "and I don't need a rescue." Yeah. Your bike's busted, you're broke, and Sacramento's not getting any closer. Get on. Unless you plan to push it home." She glared, then sighed. "Fine. Just this once." Climbing onto the back, she sat stiffly, keeping as much distance as the seat allowed. But the moment they hit a bump in the road, she lost her balance. "Careful," Ryan said, reaching back to pull her arms around his waist. "Hold tight. I'm not letting you fall on my watch." Lena froze. For a split second, she considered pulling away, but didn't. Her hands stayed right where he put them. There was something oddly comforting about it. Memories came rushing back. Ryan, that quiet teenager who used to drink beer alone outside the corner store. The one who helped her dad and brothers get jobs at the factory canteen. The guy who had teased her relentlessly for the past 5 years. She exhaled, slow and steady. Never once had she imagined liking him, but tonight, riding through the cool California breeze with her arms around him, something stirred in her chest. A strange, unfamiliar feeling. "Thanks for the ride," Lena mumbled as Ryan pulled up in front of her house. "Still can't believe you didn't dump me halfway." "If I was gonna do that, I would have done it in 10th grade, Ryan grinned. "I'm nicer than you think, you know." She shot him a glare. "Yeah, says the guy who makes it his mission to annoy me daily." "Teasing is a form of affection," he said, with that infuriating smirk. "Anyway, Lena, can I ask you something serious? Would you marry me?" She nearly fell off the bike. "Excuse me? Did the sun fry your brain?" "Not real marriage," Ryan clarified quickly, suddenly looking sincere. "Fake. Just for a few months." "You make it sound like an online subscription," she muttered. "Start explaining." He sighed, scratching the back of his neck. "My grandfather's dying. My family's loaded, but super old school. No wife, no inheritance. And you want me to pretend to be your wife? For money?" "It's not just the money," Ryan said. "I need someone I trust. Someone who won't mess this up." "Oh, how sweet," she said sarcastically. And then we get married, just on paper. Throw a small wedding, move in together for 6 months. No need to love me, no intimacy, just play the role. After my grandfather passes, we get divorced. You walk away with $2 million. Lena blinked. It wasn't the money that made her pause. It was the absurdity. Something about this feels completely wrong, she muttered. You think I'm that easy to buy? No, not at all. If you say no, I'll understand. But I trust you, and you know I keep my word. She stared at him. There was something unfamiliar in his eyes, not the usual teasing. This was real. She exhaled. Fine, but I have conditions. Name them. I'll agree. No emotions, no touching, no holding hands, no hugs, no sharing beds. Understood, Ryan nodded. And if either of us accidentally falls for the other, that person loses. He smiled. And the loser gets what? They walk away, disappear. A beat of silence. I'm in, Ryan said, extending his hand. The bet starts now. Lena looked at his hand, then shook it. Deep inside, something whispered, this is insane. But another part of her didn't want to say no. 3 days after that fateful handshake, Lena still couldn't believe she'd said yes. Everything moved at lightning speed. Ryan called his lawyer, arranged the paperwork, and she just watched it all unfold like an outsider, like it was happening to someone else entirely. Her mother thought it was real. Finally, someone's brave enough to marry my daughter, she said while ironing the cream-colored dress Lena would wear to the wedding. Her father, on the other hand, gave Ryan a long, skeptical stare. I don't know what kind of game you're playing, but if you hurt my daughter, you're done. Lena wanted to scream, this isn't real, but for some reason, the words stayed trapped in her throat. Ryan, meanwhile, treated it like it was serious. No jokes, no smirks. He even took her shopping for rings. Not flashy diamond ones, just a plain silver set. We don't need anything fancy, he said when she hesitated, just enough to make it look real. The night before the wedding, Lena stood in front of the mirror for a long time. She tried on the cream dress her mother had handed her. It was simple but fit perfectly, as if tailored just for her. She studied her reflection. Hair pinned loosely, barely any makeup. Eyes clouded with doubt. A part of her wanted to walk away. But another part, the one she usually kept buried deep, was quietly, maddeningly curious. What if this wasn't pretend? She didn't love Ryan, she was sure of that. So why was she nervous? The door creaked open. Her mother stepped inside, holding a tiny pair of pearl earrings. Wear these, she said. I wore them at my own wedding. They'll bring you luck. Mom, Lena started but faltered. Don't worry, her mother smiled. I know you're strong, but it's okay to dream a little too. Lena said nothing, and in that silence, she quietly accepted, even if it was just pretend. Tomorrow she'd be stepping into the biggest role of her life. The wedding was quiet, held in the backyard of Lena's family home, with only a few close friends and relatives in attendance. No white gown, no fancy aisle. Lena wore a simple cream dress her mother picked out, while Ryan borrowed a suit from his grandfather. I must be the only bride signing a marriage license, unsure whether to smile or cringe, Lena whispered as she signed. As long as you don't run away, I'll call this a win, Ryan replied with a small smile, his usual teasing tone absent for once. They moved into a small apartment Ryan had rented on the outskirts of Sacramento. Everything went according to the deal. Separate rooms, no touching, no pet names, just two friends living under the same roof, pretending to be husband and wife. But soon, Lena began to notice something different. Life after the wedding turned out to be quieter than Lena expected. No drama, no chaos, no awkward tension. Ryan never broke the agreement. He slept on the couch, never once crossing the lines they had set. But that, in itself, puzzled Lena even more. She had braced for an immature, teasing roommate, someone loud and careless. Instead, she got someone else entirely. He woke up early to cook, cleaned without being asked, even washed her dad's truck without a word. One morning, Lena stepped onto the porch and found Ryan hauling water buckets into the pig pens with her father. "She's got a temper," her dad said, glancing at Ryan, "but Lena's got a good heart. You break it, I'll break your nose." Ryan didn't laugh it off like usual. He just smiled quietly and kept shoveling feed. Lena watched everything in silence. She couldn't deny it. He was trying. Every night after dinner, Ryan helped with the dishes, even when her mother waved him off, flustered. "You're too polite for a son-in-law. Makes me feel guilty," she'd say. When Lena came home from late shifts, Ryan was always waiting with a glass of orange juice and a warm towel. "Vitamin boost," he'd say casually, like it was something he'd always done. "You're overacting your role," she muttered once. "I'm just doing what a husband should," Ryan replied, meeting her eyes. And it was that look, the lack of sarcasm, the quiet honesty that shook her most. She began noticing small things. The neatly folded shirt he left on the chair each morning, how he quietly helped her mother wrap tamales, the way his eyes softened whenever she tied her hair up, thinking no one was watching. One evening, she overheard him talking to her younger brother in the backyard. "I don't know if your sister realizes it, but she's strong because she's scared of being hurt. If someone loved her the right way, she'd love back harder than anyone else." Lena stood frozen behind the door, her heart thudding. She didn't know if she was scared or hopeful. One day, Ryan burned his hand taking bread from the oven. Lena rushed over, snatching his hand to inspect the red mark. "Are you blind? Why didn't you call me?" she snapped. "It's fine," he smiled. "Barely stings. But were you worried about me?" She let go immediately, face flushing. "Worried? You wish." That night, she left burn ointment on his pillow. He didn't say a word, just smiled, that quiet, breezy smile. Gradually, Lena couldn't tell if she was keeping her distance out of reason or retreating because her heart was starting to lose control. She still snapped at him, still acted cold, but deep down, she knew. Every small gesture from Ryan was chipping away at the wall she'd built for years. And when a woman starts noticing, it means the feeling she's been denying might have already been there all along. Dinner at the Cole estate was elegant but tense. Lena had never been in a house so grand, where every painting probably cost more than her entire monthly salary. She sat stiffly beside Ryan at the long table, white linen spread across, candles glowing, and eyes scanning her with thinly veiled judgment. "So you're Lena, Mrs. Cole," Ryan's mother finally spoke after a long pause. "The girl who made my son cancel all proper introductions and rush into a marriage with someone no one really knows." Lena clenched her hands in her lap. Ryan leaned slightly, squeezing her hand under the table. "Mom, not now," he said calmly but firmly. "Am I not allowed to question this?" she replied. "A sudden wedding, no background, no real explanation, no suitable upbringing." "Mom," Ryan's sister chimed in, "I heard she works in a factory. Is that true, Lena?" Lena didn't get the chance to answer. Everything went black. Sweat pooled on her back, ears rang, and then, "Lena?" Ryan's voice panicked. But she had already collapsed. The hospital room was sterile and bright, the scent of disinfectant thick in the air. Lena stirred, blinking slowly as the world came into focus. Beside her, Ryan sat, gripping her hand so tightly it ached. "You scared the hell out of me," he whispered. "What? What happened?" The doctor entered, holding a clipboard. "Nothing critical. She fainted due to low blood sugar. But while running tests, we found something else." Ryan held his breath. "Congratulations. Ms. Ramirez is about 6 weeks pregnant." Lena froze. So did Ryan. The doctor left, silence flooding in. Finally, Ryan spoke. "No need to say it. I know what you're thinking, that this is impossible, that it doesn't make sense. But Lena, remember that night, after Randy's birthday, when you were drunk and said you didn't want to be alone?" She covered her face. Her chest felt like it might explode. She remembered. No matter how hard she tried not to. "I didn't mean." "I know. I'm not mad." Ryan sat down again, his voice low, eyes steady. "But I don't regret it. You may not believe me, but you've never been a game to me. That afternoon, when Mrs. Cole visited the hospital, Ryan stayed beside Lena. I need a word with my son. Alone, she said. Lena nodded quietly and stepped outside. I knew something was off. A no-name girl suddenly shows up, marries my son, and now she's pregnant. You think I'm a fool? Ryan inhaled deeply. I know what you're thinking, Mom, but you're wrong. Wrong? Her tone turned sharp. You tell me then, what kind of love grows from a marriage that wasn't even real? Mom? Ryan looked her in the eye for the first time. I love her. That's real. And the baby is a blessing. Are you even sure it's yours? The question hit hard. But Ryan didn't flinch. He didn't shout. He just looked at her, slowly, calmly, but with steel in his voice. You taught me to take responsibility. That's what I'm doing. Not out of obligation, out of love. That night, Lena sat by the hospital window when Ryan returned and gently placed a hand on her shoulder. I told her, he said softly. It wasn't easy, but I did. And your mom? She didn't say much, but I think someday she'll understand. Lena turned to him, eyes brimming with tears. Ryan, don't say anything. You don't have to love me right now. Just don't blame yourself. He took her hand, firm but tender. Don't be scared. I'm here. And this time, I'm not letting you go through it alone. Ryan sat alone in the hospital hallway, pale fluorescent lights casting shadows across his thoughtful face. His hand still carried the warmth of Lena's grip, but inside, he was a storm of emotions. He hadn't expected things to unfold like this. A pregnancy? A confrontation with his mother? None of it had been part of the plan. But what surprised him most was himself. He had never felt this certain before. In his entire life, this was the first time he didn't run. He didn't joke it away. He didn't hide behind sarcasm. He wanted to stay, to be someone Lena could lean on, not because of a bet, not out of duty, but because he loved her. And now, more than ever, he was ready to prove it, not just to his family, but to Lena herself. 3 days after leaving the hospital, light rain fell over Sacramento. Lena sat by the apartment window, a warm cup of tea in hand, her mind still tangled in the chaos she hadn't yet sorted out. A fake marriage, a real pregnancy, a mother-in-law with fire in her eyes, and Ryan, the man she once thought took nothing seriously, now standing as her unexpected anchor. A soft knock at the door. It was Ryan. He held a paper bag with a small dark blue box inside. Can you come with me? He asked quietly. Lena didn't answer at first, but then she nodded. They drove to an old empty field just outside town, once a high school baseball field where Ryan used to hang out. I used to come here when I didn't want to go home, he said, eyes distant. I was born into a family where everyone was perfect. My brother's a doctor, my sister's a lawyer, and me, he chuckled bitterly. When I was a kid, my mom said, Ryan, you don't have to be the best. Just don't disappoint me. But I guess I never managed that. Lena turned to look at him. There was a sadness in his eyes she'd never seen before. I never fit into the Cole mold. I liked drawing, writing music, thinking too much. They called it laziness. My mom called it nonsense. And after a while, I believed her. I really thought, maybe I was useless. For the first time, Lena didn't know what to say, so she stayed silent and listened. About then, I met you, Ryan continued. Someone who didn't follow anyone's rules, stubborn, short-tempered, honest, and strong. So strong it made me want to do something right for once. He turned to face her fully. I know we started this as a ridiculous bet, but everything changed, slowly, and now, I don't care about the contract, the money, or the game. He handed her the box. No diamond, just silver, but this time, it's not a joke. Lena opened it. A simple silver ring, unadorned, but her heart trembled. not for the ring, but for the look in Ryan's eyes as he said, "Lena Ramirez, will you marry me for real? No bet, no obligations, just because, I love you." Lena stood still. So many times he'd said love like it was a punchline, like saying he loved pizza or movie nights. But this time, she felt every syllable. "Aren't you scared?" she whispered. "I'm not the perfect kind of woman. I'm impulsive, stubborn, independent to a fault." "I don't need perfect," Ryan said gently. "I need you." Lena held the silver ring in her hand, but her eyes stayed fixed on Ryan's face. Not because of his usual charm or smug smile, but because of that look. Honest, tired, but unwavering. Suddenly, flashes of memory returned. The mornings he woke up early to make coffee, eyes still red from sleepless nights. The dinners he cooked after long days. How he quietly learned to wrap tamales with her mother, shoveled mud in her father's pig pen under the blazing Sacramento sun. He never complained, never bragged. He just did it, like it was the most natural thing in the world. And now, standing in front of her, he wasn't asking for praise. He wasn't saying he deserved to be loved. He simply said he wanted to be by her. Not the sweet, idealized version people expected, but her. Raw, stubborn, real. Lena trembled slightly. For the first time in her life, she realized, someone had quietly walked a long, painful road just to be by her side. Lena took a deep breath. Her heart had already been swaying for so long, but she'd been afraid of being left, afraid of not being chosen. But in this moment, under a gray sky, in front of the man who once drove her mad with teasing, she knew if she'd trust anyone with her future, it would be him. And just like that, her fears began to quiet. She nodded softly. Ryan took her hand, sliding the ring onto her finger like he was touching something sacred. No music, no fireworks, just two tired hearts, finally done hiding. And at last, ready to begin again. After nodding and accepting the ring from Ryan's hand, Lena didn't say a word. She just stood there, holding his hand tightly, warmth blooming in her chest. She had always believed she was strong, that logic alone could protect her. But now, looking into Ryan's eyes, not the carefree boy he once was, but a man changed. She realized she had been the one hiding behind cold armor, afraid to be hurt. She used to think love was a luxury, not for girls like her, girls who grew up too fast, carried too much, and lived within the bounds of reality. She didn't have time for fantasy, nor faith that anyone would stay long enough to matter. And yet Ryan, the most aimless person she had ever known, was the one who stayed. He didn't make grand promises. He just changed, quietly, consistently. And somehow, that made it impossible for her to keep resisting. Lena leaned her head against his shoulder. For the first time in her life, she allowed herself to soften and trust. Their second wedding, this time the real one, was held in a grand garden behind the Cole estate. Everything was extravagant, a live string quartet, a 5-course dinner, a custom-made gown. To Lena, it all felt like a world she was never meant to step into, let alone be the bride in it. She stood behind the grand doors, fingers trembling as the music swelled. Rows of guests lined the aisle, dressed in tuxedos and gowns, trading polite but curious glances. "You okay?" Ryan asked softly, dressed in a perfectly tailored tuxedo. "I feel like I'm acting in a movie," Lena whispered. "A movie where I'm not sure I belong." Ryan smiled, taking her hand. "No script, no performance. This is real. And you're exactly where I want you to be." She looked at him, and as always, that calm in his eyes grounded her. The doors opened, and they walked down the aisle together. Throughout the ceremony, Lena still felt like a stranger in the glittering lights, the applause, and the smiles of people she barely knew. But whenever she started to drift into discomfort, Ryan's eyes would find hers, pulling her back to something true. His speech was short, but powerful enough to leave some eyes misty. Some people spend a lifetime chasing love. Others find it when they least expect it. Lena was the most unexpected, most beautiful thing that ever happened to me. And today, I'm proud to call her my wife. Lena never thought she'd cry at her own wedding, but she did. Not because of the grandeur, but because, for the first time, she felt chosen, loved, completely. They didn't go on a honeymoon, Ryan said. We've done the trial run. Now it's time for the real thing. They moved back into the little house on the edge of town. Once a temporary stop, now a place where every corner held warmth, laughter, and hope. Ryan kept writing music. Lena still worked part-time at the factory, but the job no longer felt dull, because every evening she knew someone was waiting for her, not out of obligation, but out of love. On their wedding night, there were no roses, no scented candles, no champagne. Just the soft glow of a bedside lamp and the quiet sound of rain tapping against the window. Simple, but warm, like the way they had come to love each other. Lena sat on the bed, gently touching the silver ring on her finger. Across the room, Ryan loosened his tie in silence, his eyes never leaving her, as if afraid this moment might vanish if he blinked. "We really got married," Lena whispered. Ryan walked over and sat beside her. "And this time, it's not a game." She looked at him. No poetry needed. Just one glance, and she knew. Their feelings hadn't started today. They'd been there for 5 years, buried beneath stubbornness and fear. "I used to think you were just the guy who knew how to drive me crazy," she said with a small laugh. "And I always knew I'd fall for you. I just didn't expect to fall this hard." In that moment, they didn't need more time or more reasons. They had stepped out of their roles, leaving behind all contracts, excuses, and hesitations. What remained was love. Real, unpolished, slow, but full and whole. May in Sacramento felt like a lullaby. Lena stood on the porch, gently stroking her round belly as the late afternoon sun filtered through the trees, casting warm light across her face. Ryan was out in the yard, dirt on his hands, carefully planting a new bed of lavender, her favorite. Life looked very different now. After the wedding, Ryan took a position at the family company, not out of obligation, but as a decision. He started small, learning everything from the ground up. Slowly, he proved himself, not for applause, but so he could look Lena in the eyes each day with quiet pride. "Mom said lavender helps you relax," Ryan said, stepping inside, holding a sprig still covered in soil. "I planted them where you can see them from the window." Lena laughed, taking it from him. "You don't have to do all of this." "I want to," he interrupted softly. "For you. And for the baby." A few weeks later, on a quiet morning, Lena gave birth to a healthy baby boy. Ryan held his son, eyes brimming with emotion. The baby had his stormy gray eyes, but the soft curve of Lena's nose. "Hey there," he whispered. "I used to think I wasn't good enough. Then I met your mom, and because of her, I learned that love doesn't need to be perfect. It just needs the courage to stay." Lena lay nearby, exhausted but glowing with quiet joy. Watching them, she realized, every scar, every weight, it was all worth it. Because in the end, family isn't built from blood. It's made of two people choosing each other, loving each other, growing together. One crisp fall afternoon, Lena opened the journal she'd kept since she was 20 and wrote, "In love, the loser isn't the weak one. The loser is the one strong enough to surrender their pride and brave enough to stay. And if I ever had to lose again, I'd still choose to lose for him."